today we will speak of organic breeding, and in the couple of hours that we will spend together, I will first make a bit wordy introduction, so please bear with me for that, about the provisions in the new organic regulation related to seed and crop breeding on one side, and organic animal and organic livestock breeding on the other side. We will then have two inputs, direct experience of breeders, from which I'm very looking forward. And after that, the view of one of the members of OPTA on how Eosta as company approaches the topic of the cultivar choice in their work. And then we will have the second hour dedicated to panel discussion with different guests that could join today to discuss together from different perspectives which could be the actions to do together, especially considering the downstream of the organic value chain which OPTA Association represents, in order to boost organic breeding and to reach the big targets related to this topic which are set in the new organic regulation. Before that, a very basic question. Why do we need organic breeding, or do we need organic breeding? And obviously, if we are making such a, if in the organic regulation there is much about that, and if there is a lot of people working on that, there must be some reasons. I mean, as you all know, now in the next years, there will be big chances for the growth of sustainable food production in Europe. The Farm to Fork has set very high level targets. Taking the words from the communication video of the Commission, basically Europe is asking us in this case if farming sector in Europe has appetite for change. And we can definitely say that all the organic sector has the will and the potential to support these big targets. But from the side of being realistic, we should also make sure not to make an indigestion, so to say, of all these chances that we have. And I say this because obviously, organic farming in Europe is going hopefully to grow, and to grow faster than it was in the past. But this means that we will need to be able to cope with a growing market. But at the same time, we will need to be able to respond to the requirement of providing high quality products which fulfill the integrity of the organic concept. And more the consumers ask for regional production, diverse production. And on our pathway towards being able to grow, but with maintaining the integrity of the organic value chain, we have one aspect which is on which actually we need to invest a lot in the next years. And this is that for the current situation, the vast majority of the organic food that we have today is derived from conventional breeding. In the crop production, this is to a level that conventional varieties account for more than 90% of crop production, and it's not much better considering the livestock sector. Actually, it's even worse. I want to make here a distinction because this is going to be helpful for all our discussion. There is two aspects always to consider on the topic. The one is the one on organic seed or organic reproductive material. So the use of organic seed, which is compulsory now for years, but still we have a vast use of derogations. And something else, it's the organic breeding. So the type of varieties from which these seeds derive, because we can have seed in organic, reproduced in organic quality, which comes from conventional breeding. And the issue is that the current situation in conventional breeding really puts at stake the integrity of the organic sector. The large breeding companies focus on key economically important crops with the target of being having high level of production under standardized input conditions. But this means that very often the outcoming conventional varieties of such approach really do not respond to the requirements of what organic farmers need, or the genetic that the organic farmers need in their farms to be able to fulfill all the sustainability targets that we have for organic farming. And at the same time, we have a highly concentrated market, both on the animal and the crop sector, with very few companies in the number of 4 for the seed market. But if we think, for example, of the chicken market, there we have 2 major companies that have over 95% of the market. And that's why we need organic breeding, because who works specifically for the organic sector from the breeding perspective has the specific objective to increase the use of diversity with the mixtures at genetic level, at cultivar level, and at cropping level. And as well, it's very important that in the programs specific for organic, it's a key point to maintain and comply with the guidelines of IFAM, also related to breeding techniques which are not allowed in organic farming. And you can imagine how this will become more and more a hot topic in Europe now that the Commission is making the first attempts to deregulate gene editing in Europe. There we reach the point to say, obviously, it's very important to have an independent organic breeding sector. And that was also understood by our legislator in the long consultation phases to come up with the current new organic regulation, the one that will start being active from the beginning of next year. And here we have in the new regulation quite a few provisions related to this aspect. Related to organic seed, for the first time we have a deadline. The new regulation sets the time frame for phasing out the derogations for use of non-organic, non-treated and non-organic conventional seeds. And this is 15 years. By beginning of 2037, the derogations should not be possible anymore. And in order to increase the visibility of the organic seed produced, the national databases will be made better and improved in their services for the farmers. From the crop breeding perspective, there is a lot of interesting and good provisions in the new regulation. The one first and important is that for the first time we do have a definition of organic breeding in the regulation, and the new the legislator has also indicated which type of cultivars are more suitable for organic producers. And we have 2 typologies, organic varieties and organic heterogeneous material. From the livestock perspective, on one side, considering the getting animals in a certain farm in order to keep the reproductive population of that farm, for the first time, also, each member state will must have a database a national database where the offers of organic animals will be published, and that will be the base for the derogations. In this case as well, the time frame of phasing out the derogation is set in 15 years. And from the breeding aspect as well, in the organic regulation, there is an indication of which breeds are more adapted to be used by organic farmers. Very shortly, a tour into these 4 provisions. So organic seed, we need to reach 100% organic seed in 15 years. It looks a lot, but if you look at this picture, these are validated data on supply and demand of organic seed in Europe and Switzerland, done by Horizon 2020 research project Live Seed. Here you see that for 4 main groups of crops, the share of organic seed supply, non-organic seed supply, and organic farm saved seed. The orange bit, which is a big bit in each of these pie, is the part that has to be substituted in the next 15 years with organic seed production. This, as you can imagine, it's going to be a huge challenge, and we have a very different starting point for different crops, maybe a much more advanced situations in cereals than if we think of fruit crops, and different situations in the different member states. But this means in the next years there will be a strong focus on this, and it will be really needed to make strategies by member state, but also by crop, in order to be able to reach this target. One additional small information from the provisions of the regulation that can be interesting, or that is important actually, is that first of all, the regulation covers all the plant reproductive material, so seed potatoes, and also vegetative propagating material. The derogations will be phased out in the coming 15 years, while the derogations will be still allowed for the case of vegetative propagating material. The use of plant protection inputs has been redefined. This means that for non-organic vegetative material, still, as soon as the material is harvested, no plant protection products that are not allowed in organic farming can be used. And this was a big negotiation, especially for the vineyard production in Europe, and it is quite an immediate change. Related to organic breeding, as I said, we will have 2 types of cultivars that are promoted and suggested as best suited for organic farmers. Organic varieties suitable for organic farming. This is the terminology used in the regulation for many background reasons we wouldn't discuss today. And the other is organic heterogeneous material. So in the regulation, we have the definition of organic breeding. Organic breeding activities shall be conducted under organic conditions, basic rule, and the focus should be on the enhancement of genetic diversity, and you know, all of those aspects that are very prominent and important in organic farming, such as the disease resistance and the adaptation to the diverse local soil and climate conditions. Related to organic varieties, because they need to embed this higher level of diversity, but still they need to be registered with the rules for variety registration. There will be a 7-year experiment by the Commission in order to come up together with breeders. As you see here, this is a colleague from Louis Bolk Institute that collaborating with the examination office, the technicians from the examination office in the Netherlands. They are already trying out how it's possible to adapt the current rules for registering varieties in order to make adapted rules to be able to facilitate the entry in the market of these organic varieties that have specific and higher level of genetic diversity compared to the conventional varieties. On the other side, we have this new terminology of organic heterogeneous material. It's not so nice to hear the terminology material, but this is because it has to cover all the possible crop types, but it basically means cultivars in which there is a very high level of genetic diversity. And for those, it's very big change. For this typology of cultivar, there will be no registration, but there will be only a notification. So a very more easy entry to the market. And just a picture, because all the text from the regulation otherwise wouldn't be so nice to listen without seeing that actually in the background there is farmers and breeders and researchers working to develop such material. So when the possibility will be there next year, we are confident that many of these materials will be notified, at least in some member states. Very shortly from the livestock sector, but then you will hear later the presentation by Wytze. There will be the database and the for each member state, which is now compulsory, and the regulation really puts a focus on the type of breeds that the farmers should use, and it says that you know, in choosing the animal breeds, we should really give high regard to genetic diversity, but also to the capacity of the animals to adapt in local conditions. And regarding breeding, it's really mentioned explicitly that, for example, embryo transfer is not allowed in organic farming. And something that is very important is that the choice of breeds shall be appropriate, of course, to the principles of organic farming, but shall ensure high standards of animal welfare. And I think Wytze will touch this topic of animal welfare very much later in his presentation. So 15 years, many changes to happen, much to do. So really not time to think over that, more time to fast act. And definitely not a job only for the breeders and the farmers. This is a change that can come only if all the value chain collaborates for this common objective. So I would say that now it would be a very good moment to go to the presentation of Amadeus and then the one of Wytze, so that we can hear the perspective of two organic breeders. And as I went a little bit long with this, I would say that I will check your questions in the chat, but I will immediately ask to Amadeus to make his presentation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I want to give you an impression about the collaboration between organic breeding and the organic value chain. And of course, I can only talk about our perspective. This is not the perspective of the whole chain, and I will give you some examples. First of all, a small introduction about our company. We are based in Switzerland, but we have also subsidiaries in Germany and Italy. And we are active both in the professional and amateur market in whole Europe. And the seeds we are selling are produced from about 100 organic growers. And we started in 1998, but organic breeding we started in 2004. And what about the principles in organic breeding? We heard already that there is a new definition from the EU. But for us, we started already earlier before this definition, and we have three important aspects. We use only material, let's say what varieties, which can be grown on organic farms. So they have to be, despite if they are conventional or organic seeds, but the variety should be allowed to grow this variety on an organic farm. So we don't use GMOs, for example. And then right from the beginning till the end, we are working only on organic farms in organic conditions. And also the methods we are using, they are according to the principles of organic agriculture. So this is the basic of our work. And we do this in quite a lot of different crops. We have 4 breeders employed here. All in different crops of vegetable crops. And I want to give you a short comparison between the organic farming and organic breeding, because organic breeding at the end, we need cooperation. And I will show you why. So in organic farming, we have less fertilizers, we have less pesticides we can use compared to conventional production. So we need, for example, more crop protection. We have to work more preventively for better plant health. And this means that we need to observe better the crops. We need more to look on interactions, and we need also more cooperation in organic farms. And the same logic we have also in organic breeding. So the surrounding is the same, and we have less breeding techniques we can use. Quite a lot of conventional, especially these very modern methods are not allowed in organic breeding. So, and then also organic breeders, normally they have less replications. So we are small breeders at the moment. So we don't have not the possibility to grow the same, to make the same trial on 4 places all over Europe. We have also less money, and this leads to the same logic. So we have to observe better. We have to interact better in our cooperation system, and we need more cooperation. At the end, on both sides, in organic farming, we need bigger diversity, a great diversity of varieties, and this is what organic breeding tries to reach, to a big diversity in organic varieties. During the last 20 years, Sativa developed a lot of projects together with different partners of the value chain, and I show you some logos from different companies. There are some more still, and here you can see some from Switzerland, like the supermarket Coop, but also you can see from Italy and some more from Germany. Most of them, they are traders or processors, but also some of them are only growers organizations. So we started this small, and in the meanwhile, this is a very important part for us. And I want to try to show you now why this is the case. We in these projects on different crops, it's every time there's a crop behind. Let's say we are working together about carrots, about sunflower, about other crops and other breeding projects, and so this is a continuous process of cooperation and exchange in both directions. And first of all, we started, of course, because these cooperations, they help us to finance our breeding activities, which cannot be financed by selling seeds alone. But we get, during these cooperations, we get a continuous feedback for important traits. So the growers and also the processors, they know better, or even the traders, they know better which traits are important from their point of view in order to reach to a good variety. And we are very dependent on this aspects. We need this as a feedback in order to do a better job in breeding. So at the end, but we can also inform our partners about the logic of the plant, let's say. So not everything is feasible, what might be interesting. And this is also very important to make breeding more known to our partners, to those companies. we also, during these projects, we are also able to start very early to test breeding lines in a very early stage, which is important for us because this we can get in contact with growers which might not be reachable for us alone. So we cannot, for example, one of our breeders has been in Spain last week for zucchini breeding, and so if we would ask just from Switzerland if there might be a trial for zucchini breeding lines, the grower will not be interested. But if the grower is in part of such a project, he is much more interested. So at the beginning, the financial aspect was very important for us, but now this is only one of a lot of important and positive aspects out of these corporations. This cooperation needs also flexibility because every company is organized in a bit different way. So we have to find out what they know already about breeding techniques, about the crop, and how they are organized. Is this a part of the marketing department, or is this the CEO who is interested in breeding? And we have also to learn the language of each company. Because everybody is functioning a little bit different, so this needs a lot of flexibility from our side. But we can learn also to make organic breeding understandable. So at the end, if we want to be successful, we don't need only good varieties, but we also need to make understandable what is organic breeding. And for example, organic breeding is a very long subject, so it takes some time, some years to reach to new varieties, and this is also very important to make it understandable for our partners, because very often they think in 2 years there might be a good result feasible. So if you go back to organic breeding, so organic breeding is always has to be a dialogue between breeders and plants. So it's not a monologue like GMO. For me, GMO breeding is a monologue, so it is a kind of dictate coming from mankind to plants. They have to obey, and organic breeding is the difference. And this is also these corporations has always to be a dialogue. We have to learn from our partners, but they are learning also from us. And sometimes we have to defend the position of the growers. Sometimes we have to defend the position of the traders or the processors in the discussions with the growers. And for example, we have to explain that some combinations are not possible. For example, if you want better yield and better taste in one plant, this is nearly impossible to reach. We have to make this known. Another example for cooperation is with growers. I will shortly show you some pictures about our project Mitvereinten Gärten. We started this about lettuce breeding and the challenge of mildew. The conventional breeding is about monogenetic resistances, and this is a dead-end street. But we need a lot of partners if you want to look to field resistance, we need a lot of partners in order to check if these resistances are really there. And we started a kind of a participatory breeding project. It's not per definition participatory, but we get a lot of feedback. We learned meanwhile that a modern name for this is citizen science project. We started this project in 2 years ago, and we started with 750 participants, but now we will reach even 3,000 this year in 7 countries all over Europe, who grow breeding lines from us and send us back their feedback about those breeding lines. We get a lot of positive reactions from our participants, very interesting. This helps us also to explain better our breeding approach. And of course, we get a very positive feedback for our breeding work itself. But also there, we have to learn the language of the participants. But this cooperation is very important. And so by this project, for example, we can also make organic breeding more integrated in society, because in conventional breeding this is always separated apart and it's hidden behind big walls and nobody can see, and one day there will be a big new variety released. But with this approach we do the opposite. We try to do the opposite. Now I will give you some information also about BioVerita. This is an association founded 10 years ago. I'm the president of this association, and in BioVerita we try to make organic breeding more known during the value chain of organic products. So the organic breeders, they are not able to do the marketing for their varieties. They have no financial means, and they have to concentrate themselves on breeding. But the intrinsic values of all organic varieties, doesn't matter if you talk about cereals, vegetables, or fruits, these intrinsic values, they are the same. And this is what we want to communicate with BioVerita. Very often we realize that organic varieties, they are not known. So the growers, they don't know them, but also processors and traders, they don't know them. And of course, on the other side, the consumers, organic consumers, they are expecting that everything is organic. They're expecting that if they buy organic vegetables, of course, the grower used organic seeds, and of course he is using organic varieties. So there's a certain contradiction, and we try to work on that. So we started in 2018, we started the first pilot project with Rinkli Naturkost, a German organic trader, labeling different vegetable varieties till the point of sale. So we organized kind of a production from the farm. So the whole value chain is transparent, and because this project was very successful, or is still very successful, so now in the meantime we have some more partners, all in Germany. All of them, they are selling organic vegetable varieties, and they are labeling these varieties till their point of sale. And so we are quite happy about this success. In all those projects, the sales are increasing, and we are now talking even about if one trader might switch to 100% organic varieties in one species, so not only to have it additionally to the other varieties. And we have some more partners. We are in discussion about further projects. Due to Corona crisis, it's not so easy to work on that very, very strongly. But we can realize there's a strong interest in those projects. We also try to work on cereal marketing projects, and we also in contact with one of our organic apple variety breeder to release the first variety. And by this, BioVerita tries to bring new sales arguments to the traders, to trading companies. In fact, it's not very new. That's what the consumers normally are expecting. And we realized also that if a project like I showed you should be successful, we need always to intensify the dialogue between the growers and the traders, because we are talking about certain deficits sometimes in certain varieties, and so we have to find new solutions for problems which might not be discussed otherwise. And also there we have to learn to discuss, to learn the language of the partners, and try especially to translate the approach of organic breeding to the organic trade, where it is not very present at the moment until now. So we have also this approach in different languages. We are also in contact with partner Italy and in other regions of Europe, but we are still a small association, so we have to concentrate on several projects to bring them forward. And this is one last example to show you about how it can be shown in the supermarket or in the organic market, and that's what I wanted to show to you.
Thanks, Amadeus. I would pick a couple of questions, but actually I will summarize in one question. So basically, what is the role between the conservation of heritage cultivars and doing new organic varieties? And as well, what is the role of organic breeding in for niche crops? Underutilized crops.
Yes, so the preserving of traditional varieties is also very important because it's is one base of diversity we need. Also need for the breeding approach, but it's and there we can also realize that consumers are very aware about those varieties. They like to buy those products, but we also have to realize that those varieties very often they have deficits or they're lacking resistance and so on, and they are not very adapted to all the challenges of climate change. So that can be one element in a global strategy, but it's only one element. And about niche products, so niche products, they are very important, but it's the challenge always is that if the niche is too small, or then it gets very difficult to market them. So everybody is looking for new products, for alternatives, but at the end they have to be still very close to the common products. So like, for example, tomato, if you have another color, this is people all still know, it's a tomato, then they are open for trying that. But if you would offer another product which people don't know how to eat, how to cook, then it's difficult.
Thanks, Amadeus. I think we will have a chance also later in the panel discussion to continue the conversation. And Wytze, please, we are ready to listen to your contribute.
I have been working on organic breeding, development of organic breeding for about 25 years now. I came from a very conventional part of the world, and then I started working on the development of organic breeding. I was asked by the Louis Bolk Institute a long time ago to do that, and so I thought, well, this is a nice challenge because everything is there, and we just have to do it organic, and then we have organic breeding. But it was not that simple, and it is still not simple. So I developed, talked with a lot of farmers when I was working with the Louis Bolk Institute, what we should do with organic breeding. And most of the farmers said, yes, actually, we should have organic breeding because then the whole chain is organic. But they said, well, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to develop it. And I was the guy who had to do it. The questions were, why do we need organic breeding? Teresa already mentioned a lot of things, we want to make the whole chain organic, from the beginning to the end. So that is still the goal. And I'm really, really sometimes also annoyed that, after so many years, we haven't managed doing it in the animal sector. Because everything's there, the animals are there. All the farmers have good animals, and we can just select good breeding stock from that and use it as organic breeding. But something is not happening, and we really need it also because we need robust animals. And what I see now, especially in the Netherlands, a lot of organic farms are very close nearby conventional farming. Because the animals are not robust, so you have to feed them kind of conventionally. You have to have high input of raw feeds and concentrates with the cows, and also with chickens and pigs, because we are actually using conventional animals, conventional genetics in organic systems. And if it's a real organic system, if you feed cows only raw feeds. And if you feed the pigs only, also more raw feeds. And I'm feeding my chickens, my dual purpose chickens, also a lot of grain. Then the conventional chickens and the conventional animals, they just don't do it. They cannot manage producing on such a diet. So we need animals robust, but also animals that fit to an organic system. And I see a lot of farms which are not really organic in my eyes, with cows with 40-50% of concentrates in the diet. That's not organic. A long time ago, in the Netherlands, we had a rule for 20% of concentrates, but when they left it, when this changed to 40, because that was the European rule, now a lot of farmers are using 40% of concentrates in the diet, and then you can use conventional animals, but then you are very close to conventional production in my eyes. But the other thing is the animal friendliness of breeding systems. I have been working before I started in conventional organic breeding. Before that, I was working in the high-tech reproduction area of dairy cattle. And it is just a shame what we are doing with animals in breeding, with breeding cows, the mother cows of the bulls, they are really mistreated. So I will show you later some things about that. So the system, the conventional breeding system is not animal friendly, but we are using it. It's not directly connected to the production of organic products, but yeah, if you ask the farmers also, should we use a conventional breeding, then if you tell them what is happening in conventional breeding, then they all say actually we should not use it, but at the same time they keep on using it. And I talked to a lot of consumers about it, and for 100%, all the consumers, they expect that breeding should also be organic, and that we should not use conventional animals. But it's not the way. There are a part of the dairy farmers, they are using their own bull. So that's more or less, when the bull is from an organic farm or from their own farm, then you can call it 100% organic. And if they use a bull from a conventional farm, well, this bull also has a good life on the organic farm. So in my eyes, this is very much organic breeding. But most of the farmers, the dairy farmers, are using semen from the conventional breeding. And the other things which are happening now the last 10, 20 years is the GMO, the gene editing, the CRISPR-Cas is coming into the sector in Americas and in Australia, and breeding is a worldwide business. And you don't know, you just don't know anymore if it is used in breeding animals. You cannot see it from the outside. So who you can trust, I don't know in this world. And we also have now breeding companies are everywhere in chicken and cattle and pigs. They are using genomics because they think they can select animals based on the single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs, and that is simply not working. I can talk another hour about that, but I don't believe, and a lot of people which are not statisticians but more in physiology and biology, they can show you that genomics is just a lie. Again, why organic breeding? Because conventional animals press organic farmers for high inputs. If you have such animals, you have to feed them well. You have to feed them kind of conventional. Otherwise, animals just don't do well. Production techniques are very bad and painful for the animals. It's horrible what they do. Breeding animals are always indoor. The top breeding animals are kept inside. There is also a lot of inbreeding in conventional animals in Holstein and in Jersey. The commercial dairy breeds. It's a very high level of inbreeding, and it's all the ownership is more and more at stake. That breeding companies say, hey, this cow is actually mine. The genetics is mine. You can have it, you can milk it, but if you want to breed with it, it's not allowed. So we also have to take that in mind that in breeding it's all about ownership. So what I saw when I started this project of my life, I would say that everything is there. We have farmers, we have good farmers with good cows, and these cows are 50% getting bull calves, and then the farmer is not happy because he wants a dairy calf. So the bull calf goes to the market, and then I say, if you are really disappointed because of the bull calf, you have to call me. Then we raise the bull and we use it for semen. So we have very good cows, and good. The best cows we select are high lifetime production cows, which have been 5, 6, 7 lactations on the dairy farm. on the organic dairy farm, and then you are sure that this is a good cow. And we keep bulls from these cows for breeding. And of course, also with the chickens, we need nice, good eggs, and for the cattle and the chickens, and we need quality meat. And also the breeding go ahead, resilient, robust animals. So, automatically, if you choose for a high lifetime production in cattle, you know automatically that these animals are robust and resilient, and have a good fertility, and do not need antibiotics to stay alive, to stay healthy. Such cows just do it, and we have to focus on these cows which can do it in organic farming. So, and then I also in my PhD study, I looked into how can you then start a breeding plan, breeding system, because if you do it the conventional way, it's also a very, very expensive way of breeding, and in the small organic sector, it's not possible to do that in this way. So that's why I choose for a young animal system. And that means also that you have every year you have to select new young animals for breeding. This is also good for getting away from this inbreeding system. You need more variety, more genetic variety, and you need more animals to use. So every year you need new animals for breeding. So with these young animals, you have to spread the genetics evenly over the population. That's also important, because otherwise you also get too much inbreeding on one farm. And with a short generation interval, you can also get a fast genetic gain. This is very important in this system, because we want to see, of course, we want to see results. And we also want to show that we are getting somewhere. So, and if you use the best young animals every year, you can get a very short generation interval and a fast genetic gain. And in average, we use all the time the best animals from the population, and we have low costs, and we call it the gold system. A bull, when we select semen from the bull. Then the bull is 1 year, a year and a half old, and then we select semen, and then it goes to the slaughterhouse, or it goes as a breeding bull to an organic farm. But then you don't have the costs of keeping this bull any longer. So that's called the gold system. You just slaughter it after you have the semen. So this is what I started first on my own, and together with a little group of farmers which were helping me. But later in 2018, we set up the cooperative Bigongiali. That is organic AI translated. We now have a little bit more than 100 members. And all we do is just from these members and also other farms, we select good cows, we select good bulls, and we bring them to the AI station for semen collection. And we sell the semen to the members, and also to other farmers which are non-members, but most of them are members. So we have now, maybe in general, I think 100 members with an average 100 cows. So that is our population, and we are doing well. We have very good cows. All the farmers, I think 99% of the farmers is happy with the cows they get from Bigongiali. And at my own place, I have a small farm in Soest in the middle of the Netherlands, and there I'm breeding the Vredelinger dual-purpose chickens. I started this also as a project at the Louis Balk Institute, and in 2012 this project stopped. But I said, no, we have to go on with these chickens because we started, and if I stop now, the whole thing will stop. So I took them to my own place, and I'm still breeding them every year, a new generation. And they are producing about 250 eggs per year. And the roosters, they grow in about 20 weeks to 2 kilos. And the slaughtered weight is then about 1.2, 1.3 kilos. And it's a very high quality of meat. And so I'm selling these little chicks to most farms with about 250 chickens in a mobile chicken house. And with Bigongiali, we have now, he's 20 bulls, but we have now up to 25 bulls. And it does not look so much, but if you see, this is the only project in the world where we are doing this. This is unique. There is no other country. I think it's Switzerland. Annette Pengler is working a little bit on a few bulls, so she is the next one. It is. It's just and it is possible in the Netherlands because we have an independent AI station who collects the semen. In all other countries all over the world, cattle breeding is ruled by big breeding companies, and they have their own AI stations. And they, of course, they do not want to select semen for organic and competitors, so they keep the door closed. And I have been asking them for many years, why do you not select organic bulls and put them on the market? But they just laugh about it, because organic is not in their mind. But I learned also that what in general is happening in breeding in pigs and chickens, this is a very extreme, but also in cattle, you see that these breeding companies, they want to breed a bull which can be used by all farmers, and for that, all the farmers have to become have to have one system. And then the bull fits all farmers, and so they can sell a lot of semen of a few top bulls. So everything has to become similar. And if you then look at organic farming, there is so much variety between farms with breeds and types of farms. Some farmers have produced 4,000 kilograms of milk per cow per year, and others 10,000. That's the range in the Netherlands. And then the breeding corporation says, I don't know what to breed for you. They just don't know what to do. So that is also an issue why they do not want to start breeding for organic. So that's why we started, and here I show some sales per year of the bulls, and this is going up to 2019, but now we are up to close to 3,000 straws per year. It's not much, but it's all organic, and it's unique in the world.
Wytze, thanks a lot
yes.
for all this nice input. Unfortunately, we are a little bit long with the timing, but there will be time to get questions and also to discuss a little bit more. Which actions we need to take that your activity and the one of Annette in Switzerland shouldn't remain two very isolated initiatives, but they should be the seed from where many more initiatives such yours will come in the next years. Thanks a lot.
Teresa, I have this one question I wanted to show you.
Please.
We asked the customers, in the stores to think behind the product, that it is organic and animal friendly and where it comes from, and then they pay more. And why do farmers not think behind the product when they are buying semen from animals, from the cows, from the bulls? So that's also from the farmers. As farmers, we ask the consumers to think behind the product, but the farmers are not thinking behind their product, what they buy and this is then the semen. So this is what I wanted to give to you also. That is, I think, important that we have to keep in mind.
Thanks. Yeah, it's an important aspect, but also, a farmer needs to have the right insurance of, for example, the prices of his outcome product in order to be able to use organic seed or organic animals. Thanks a lot. I would say that it's time to listen to Gert-Jan from Eosta and see which ideas and perspectives he wants to bring in the discussion.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Gert-Jan Lieffering, working at Eosta. I'm a quality manager. I work at Eosta for 3 years now. And before, I've been working in farming internationally in Israel and South Africa, and working with small producers of organic banana and fair trade bananas in Ecuador. And after that, I joined the trading business with AgroFair first, introducing fair trade tropical fruits in the market, and now working at Eosta. So with this presentation, I want to give you really main aspects that are influencing organic breeding or can feed the discussion. It's really a very brief and high-level introduction. but I think it's a good start. So Eosta, I think you all know, but an importer of 100% organic fruit and vegetables, 30 years now. We are working with European and overseas products, but the tendency is more and more overseas products because retail is going more and more directly to their European growers. And we do vegetables, but mainly also tree and vine fruit crops. And also I want to focus my presentation a bit more on the tree varieties, what aspects are there on the organic breeding. We sell to mainly all European markets, a lot to, of course, Holland, but also Germany, Scandinavia, Austria and Switzerland are main markets. And on the sourcing side, we source from Africa and Latin America, and working with some 200, 300 suppliers. With those are exporters, and these are then related again with hundreds, thousands of farmers. So we're an international business with a large scope, you could say. Tree crops, I think two aspects you have to take into consideration with tree crops. It's different than vegetables, of course. With tree crops, there's always two varieties in one plant, or mostly, which is then a rootstock, which supports the root system and the trunk, and then the graft on top that will give the consumable variety. So, for instance, in citrus, you have your rootstock, which you have to identify and choose, and then your final variety. And there's a very, I would say, there's a large difference in growers and also in trade on the awareness of rootstocks. What rootstock do you choose on which location? It's very important, but I could say also in organic cultivation, sometimes a bit underestimated. And then for within tree crops, the whole breeding selection process is of course a long-term exercise. So also for organic breeding, there should be a long-term vision on this aspect to get to your goals, and with a lot of patience involved. Requirements from trading side or dynamics. What does the trade requires? First of all, dealing with overseas, you need shelf life. Fruit needs to survive at least, or in good conditions, the shipment period. So if we import, for instance, from Kenya or South Africa, there's shipment of about 21 days. Fruit has been pre-cooled and then stored in reefer containers, pelletized. And after 21 days, it arrives at Eosta warehouses. And then the process of sales starts. And that can also last a week or maybe 10 days. And if you take into account that somebody needs still to harvest and pack and maybe store, wait for the boat to come on a certain day, then fruit after harvest may even take about 35 days before it ends up in the shelf. So it needs a kind of a considerable hardiness and shelf life to present fresh and nice taste at consumer level. A second, of course, yield. Cost pricing and the immense competition requires that it should at least give a certain yield for a farmer to get good profits. Then hardiness and resistance, not only in shelf life but also during cultivation. Rootstocks should be hardy and maybe cope with some drought or maybe salty soils, especially now with climate change. But also certain root diseases, for instance, Phytophthora, which is a very common root disease in citrus and avocado. It's really, that's really important. The size of the fruit. One tree gives a large amount of sizes. and in commercial in the commerce or the market requires only certain sizes. So a farmer harvesting the total of his crop could only sell maybe a certain percentages because those are the right sizes that are commercially wanted. So that's also a puzzle in commercial business, that you want to create good business for your grower, but second, you need also to get the puzzle done. Like, okay, which sizes do you have? How many percentage of what size, and which market can it go? And it requires good alignment, but it helps a lot when there's a variety that gives you more the sizes that you want at the first place. Another point is timing, harvest window. Coming with your crop in the right timing with not a lot of competition from other origins helps tremendous amount, but also extending your harvest season, so you can really enlarge the time that you can harvest and sell your crop is very important. Flavor, of course, but also the healthy characteristics of fruit is very important at consumer level, of course, and on also texture and crispiness. So in the end, there should be good flavor and good texture. If you, some aspects in breeding of fruit crops, I'll give you two examples of two product groups. First, we have like table grapes and blueberries. These are very high value products. They represent a high cost, but also very high value in the market. And both also have a short harvest season. Every variety might only be harvested only 2 weeks or largest 3 weeks. So there's a short harvest season. You work all year, and then in the short harvest season, you need to get your crop from the field and into the reavers. And there are also a large amount of cultivars. With these cultivars, then people are able to extend their harvest season. So then you have your early cultivars, your mid cultivars, and your late cultivars. And with those, you are able to have an export season of about, let's say, 2.5 months on average. And it's also very different with some other crops, which I will point out in the next slide, because in other crops you see really one variety only available. But with these products, it's really a tremendous amount of cultivars. For instance, in grapes there are about 60 to 80 commercial table grape varieties, which is a lot. I think the reason is because of the two earlier mentioned points. It's high value. There's a big interest from breeders to get access to that market, but also the short harvest season motivates to look for more varieties to extend your season. So behind those breeding programs, there's a lot of money involved. There's a big investing companies that invest in breeding programs, and in grapes, for instance, there's about 4 or 5 big multinationals that are behind these programs. I'm not aware of any organic breeding programs, specific organic breeding programs. So that also results in that we basically use those cultivars that are a product of these breeding programs. And that's for the most of the cultivars we use in the trade. The profit model for these programs is club varieties. So basically all these varieties are patented, both on plants, but also on volumes. So as a grower, you pay per plant to the breeding program, but also in many cases, even a part of your volume. So it's a very lucrative business to invest in, and that's what you see internationally. What also one tendency is that within these crops, there's a huge expansions, especially in Peru. You see also on the cultivation side, big investments, large amounts of crops being planted. Also in locations that are not really suitable for the intrinsic character of the plant, maybe. You see big avocado plantations, for instance, in Peru at the coastline, which is very dry, dry climate. But with irrigation, the ideal circumstances are created, but it's created, and it's not really it's not really an intrinsic circumstances for the plant itself. Also, these big players, they also are moving into organic production. And that is you could say it's a concern, or it's something to be added in the discussion, like how do we deal with this, and how do we deal with organic breeding within these big powers. And then the last point is zero chem. The market is going towards less and less use of pesticides. So that also is you could say a positive effect on the breeding programs, because they will focus on hardiness and resistance of varieties. Another group of fruit crops where maybe with some other tendencies or aspects, banana, avocado, mango, but mostly banana and avocado. As you might know, bananas, it's basically one cultivar used worldwide, the Cavendish. For instance, in Ecuador, the largest exporter in the world is 200,000 hectares of one variety in the coastlines of Ecuador. So 200,000 hectares of one genetic base, so to speak. And that's only Ecuador. And the same, you see that in other crops as well, that crops are moving towards a monoculture, not only monoculture, but also to one variety, because it's easy in the business, it's recognizable, it's a year-round supply of the same fruit. But that is, of course, a huge concern for the risks and the biodiversity in the end. So in avocado, you see the same tendency. It's a crop that is gaining a lot of interest and has a huge growth over the last years. And it's all moving towards one variety, which is the Hass variety, which you all might know, the one with the crocodile skin and turning dark when eat ripe, which is very handy at consumer level. And I think that's also the whole system as it works now. It's all based on convenience and easy to use and hardiness. But I think very important discussion is it still organic? Do you want this as an organic industry, and what is the influence we have to come up with other varieties? Rootstocks of three crops, the avocado and mango, then are mostly locally selected. There's little, we work a lot with smallholders in Kenya and Peru. They basically select their own rootstocks locally, and in the plantations models, you see more commercial created rootstocks used, clonal rootstocks, for instance. And then a small sidestep to ginger. It's not a tree crop, of course. It's more a vegetable roots crop, and we work there in China and import from Brazil and Peru. And in ginger, you see, on the other hand, a totally informal breeding selection process. There's no variety basically at all. It's more like ginger from China and ginger from Peru, and there's no really real name for that ginger. So that's quite particular. And you could also say in the overall over these mentioned crops that the consumer awareness of varieties with names is very low. People don't know the Hass or the Cavendish. They might have read about the banana problem with the monocultures, but there's little extra value or awareness on typical varieties, even in blueberries, which is a very popular product as well, which is different in apples, for instance. So to close off with some maybe input or discussion, diversity is an issue, a huge challenge, I think, as mentioned with the monocultures, but in tree crops in general, for us also to motivate people to really go into diversity with perennial crops. Climate change is a big issue. It's an important aspect to take into account, especially in rootstock selections with more saline soils. We do see changes in rainfall patterns, and especially in South Africa or Peru. And I think one of the discussion is to how to link to the large breeding programs. Is that an option? Is there any contact with those large breeding programs, and are they open to have a discussion on organic breeding? And then marketing, I think organic cultivars might be a very good opportunity when having an like Amadeus was showing, that you could promote organic cultivars. On the other hand, it's a huge challenge because you need that year round. You need to be able to supply the volumes year round with those cultivars, and the established cultivars have a very strong position within the market. But that's definitely something interesting to look at. Finally, also what is interesting is with the whole low zero chem tendency, organic could be a very interesting testing ground for selection programs, because when a new variety works under organic conditions, you could consider it also be working without any use of pesticides. So that might be an interesting motivation to introduce organic cultivars also in the large breeding programs. So that was my contribution up to now. Back to you, Teresa.
Thanks a lot. Actually, very good. Let's say shower of reality, and very good points to open our panel discussion. So I would ask now to Edith, Steven, and Federica to open their camera, also to the other speakers, so that we can have this discussion. And I would start with getting some input from Edith, as for very many years now with long experience in the sector.
Thank you, Mariateresa. And also thanks to the previous speakers, because we have now a good insight in what is the challenge through the regulation. We need to meet the deadline of 2036 to close the cycle and use 100% organic seed. And on the other hand, we see how it works in breeding, but also the trader's point of view that Eosta pointed out very nicely. Those are quite some challenges. So the challenges are not only on the farmer's side, but also on the trader's side. And the first challenge, the first concern is, in fact, how can we close the cycle, and can we get organic seed from the existing varieties that are used in the organic sector? And then you notice that not every seed company that owns that variety has experience with organic seed production and is willing to do so. Or if he is willing to do so, then sometimes, and we've had an example in carrot. Once we had a very popular carrot in organic carrot production, but when it came to seed production, it seemed that in the seed phase, it was not possible to get sufficient organic seed. So then the farmers need to switch to another variety, and that's a challenge. The example that I want to give as input for the discussion is about potato breeding, where I have been involved in, as that was really a problematic crop in the Netherlands, as unlike in many European countries, Netherlands is not allowed to use copper already for many decades. And that means that we have no way to escape from late blight infection in the Netherlands. And so we really need robust varieties. And those varieties were failing very much, which meant that, sometimes we found illegal ways to cope with the late blight, and we really were in high need of robust varieties. And when we had a year again, we had 3 years in a row of late blight infection, and finally it was clear we absolutely need to prioritize potato breeding for organic agriculture. And we succeeded in getting subsidy for that. And it is already running, the BioImpulse project, for 10 years. And we even had subsidy for the coming 10 years to get a broad diversity of resistance into new varieties. But what we forgot in the beginning was the concern for growers was so huge. There were growers in the Netherlands, organic growers, that stopped growing potato because if there are varieties lacking, it doesn't make sense to grow potato in the Netherlands. And so we were very much focused on the traits that were important for the farmers. But when the first resistant cultivars came to the market, we noticed that retailers said, why on earth should we take up new varieties? Aren't the existing varieties good enough? And they wanted to be conservative and stick to the well-known varieties. And from the presentation that Gert-Jan from Eosta gave, we can understand, because they have to deal with a lot of shelf life, etc., and preferences from consumers. And what we then did was, together with Bionext, the umbrella organization in the Netherlands, we realized we can't move forward if we don't have full commitment from the supermarkets. And then there was a process ongoing, and within a year, Bionext got full commitment of all the supermarkets. So the regular supermarkets like Lidl, Jumbo, Albert Heijn, or whatever we have in the Netherlands, but also the health food stores, the organic stores, to prioritize the organic varieties and take a 3-year transition period to move from slowly 30% right up to 100% organic or say robust varieties in 2020. And we succeeded with that. And when we started in 2017, there were only 10 robust varieties available, which is, for all the different segments in the potato sector, rather small. Some want mealy, others want firm cooking, yellow fleshed or light yellow fleshed, etc. But with the full commitment we had from the value chain, breeders realized that their market was secured, and they could therefore give a higher priority to late blight breeding in their program, and varieties that would otherwise be discarded because they're not top yielding but are robust, all of a sudden were prioritized. And now the supermarkets have 25 robust varieties to choose from. So it also opened up the possibility for a larger diversity. So I think that is a very nice example of what commitment in the value chain can mean, and how it can boost the breeding and supply of a diversity of varieties. But what I also encountered was that a lot of retailers are interested or prepared to be interested in breeding and supporting breeding, but they say it is so difficult to communicate that with the consumers, because a lot of consumers in the organic sector associate plant breeding with GMOs, even if it was organic breeding, because they think we shouldn't mess around with plants, and are the existing or old varieties not good enough? And we need to educate the public that plant breeding is a continuum that is part of agriculture and also part of organic agriculture. And so here we still have a challenge to make the public sensitive that all of a sudden maybe the potato looks a bit different because it's a new variety. And why is that new variety so important? So maybe because there are more panel members, maybe I keep it short with this input for a start.
Thanks, Edith. Actually, I see that it's a very good example of how you can have a big problem. You can't use copper, but you don't really reach the final result without all the sector committing to solve that problem. Now I would like to give the word to Steven from UDEA to hear a bit what ideas can come from the retail sector in this topic.
Yes, thank you. Based on the story that Edith was telling, indeed we were also involved in the potato project, if I would call it like that, and it was also an eye-opener for us to see more, okay, what are the problems in the chain and how can you solve them together, let's say. If you are a retailer, most of the time you're focused mainly on what is the customer's demand and how can I satisfy my customer, because that is your main goal. You want to sell to your customer, and by satisfying your customer, most of the time or many times, it could happen that that it is you create a problem in the chain. And by not only looking at what the customer wants, but mainly look at what the chain needs and what you want in general to achieve, so a more sustainable product, let's say it in general, that at the end is what you want. And by just offering that to the consumer and not ask what the consumer wants, but more like show what they should want, you can keep more possibilities to develop in aspects. And also then you can look again at breeding, because I think in general breeding is a very difficult topic, especially for let's say me as a general consumer. If you did not study the topic, it's a very complex aspect, and you hear many aspects. Indeed, you hear consumers and also maybe organizations that say, okay, we should go back to the old varieties, to the ones that were in the primitive times already existing, because those are the strong ones and the good ones. And I think also that part is true. But on the other hand, we need development. And we need also to make sure that we can still grow good products that maybe are also at the end what we all want in a chain, because we want a better shelf life, we want a strong, nice, tasty product. So also maybe we are spoiled as a consumer, but at the end we got used to it. And at the end, I think it's also what we all want. So we also should be open to see what can we do in the breeding without losing our values. And I think it's very difficult to let the consumer decide that. But if you explain them what the goal is, so for example, what we did with the potato, we did not really talk about breeding or new varieties or all these kind of things. We just said that we were starting to use more robust varieties to make sure that we don't use pesticides anymore, because we agree all, okay, we don't want to use more pesticides or chemicals or metals as we were using. So by doing that, we use robust potatoes, and with that we solve the problem.
Thanks, Steven. Actually, I think this message you just gave us that, you know, for us from the research and breeding background, it's always very important to explain how organic breeding works and what we do in the background. And I see that actually from your side, sometimes it's better just to explain the positive aspects of the outcome, and that sometimes it's not that the story you should tell to the consumers, it's not so much about all the steps we do in the background, let's say, but what is the benefits of that outcome. Yeah, thanks for
Sometimes is maybe a bit unthankful, because you also want to show, like, look, we have worked 5 years on a variety, so be thankful. But yeah, the outcome for the consumer is most of the time like, yeah, is it tasty? Can I store it longer than a week? Okay, then I'm happy. The rest of the information is not that important.
Amadeus, please, I see
Yes.
you want to comment directly on this.
I can really understand very good the comments from Stephen, but I think situation will change, because it's quite clear that we have to communicate, of course, the advantages for the consumers, or also this kind of robustness. But if you look to the challenges we have, for example, due to climate change, people are aware that there must be some changings. There must be changings in how we produce our energy. There must be change in how we use energy. There must be changing in nutrition, and also, and on the other side, people know that there is genetic engineering. And so I think it's the main task is to explain organic breeding easy. That's the challenge, and of course you have to mention the advantages. But I think it would be a loss to reduce only to robustness and don't explain the way of how these varieties have been developed, because on the other side, those arguments, if you they are really strongly linked to the fundament of organic agriculture.
Yes, thanks. From our perspective, a few months ago, as a FiBL, to produce a communication video on organic breeding that Monica shared in the chat, we did a sort of survey towards our network of breeders and colleagues in research that deal with organic breeding, to come up with key messages. And we could come up with very many important messages, and at least with 10, 12 key points related to the genetic diversity conservation, related to the climate change, as Amadeus has said, related to the market concentration, and also related to the benefits for nature and the benefits for health. So it's really complex, and I understand that when you take it from different ends, you might need to give the light on one of those aspects, but we definitely should find strategies not to to put too much in the background the other aspects. We have still one speaker, Federica from Italy. Organic breeding, there is quite many initiatives, and it's now many years that there are initiatives working on organic breeding. Some of those have been working more in Central European countries, and in Mediterranean countries, the work was more related to genetic diversity and heritage cultivars, a bit from a different perspective. Federica is working on bringing the topic of organic breeding in Italy, so let's listen a few words from her.
Okay, so thank you. Our foundation, so in the future, was established in 2019, and the partner of the foundation are Econatura C, that is the largest retailers in Italy of organic and biodynamic product. one big co-op, Gino Girolomoni, that manage 30,000 hectares and produce 15,000 tons of durum wheat in Italy. The Italian Anthroposophic Foundation and a Swiss foundation that already finance organic breeding in Switzerland, whose president is Peter Kunz. At the moment, the foundation is mainly financed by our partners, and recently we decided to involve directly the consumers as possible financer of our activities. So since last winter, we have started to work intensively on the communication of our activities and on the concept of organic breeding with the consumer through the social media of our partners, through magazine, web talk, educational video, but it's not easy to talk about organic breeding to people who often do not have the basic knowledge of agriculture. It's not easy to let them understand the difference between organic varieties and organic seeds that comes from conventional varieties. In the last few years in Italy, there has been a lot of talk and work about old varieties and heterogeneous material, and that was great. Many farmers have achieved good results, and thanks to this, they have found their own place on the market. But we have probably overlooked those farms for whom old varieties and heterogeneous material is not enough. And so nowadays, everything that is new breed is seen as a risk for local biodiversities, as past the notion that biodiversity is something to be preserved and that we don't need to build a new biodiversity. The question that often comes up when we talk with the consumer is, but we really need new varieties, and what will happen to the local biodiversity if we start to bring new varieties? It's like if one way goes against the other, and the two ways can go in parallel, can go together. So I understood that there is a lot of work to do, and it's good to have the possibility to work with the retailers, I mean with Econatura C and with COP Gino Girolomoni, because they are helping us also to find the right word to speak with the consumers, because sometimes as a breeder we use too much technical word, and this is not the right way to reach the consumers. So working together, they can help say, no, this is not good, Federica, because the consumer cannot understand you. So it's I think that with time we can reach a profitable way to speak with the consumers, but it's still a long way to do.
Thanks, Federica. Yes, I see that some key aspects like how to show that agrobiodiversity can be maintained, and you even make a better use if it's a dynamic management of that. And a dynamic management basically means that you also use it for making new selections, new breeding. That it's really something on which we need to be stronger on the messaging of how breeding is not in conflict, but is end-to-end with dynamic management of agrobiodiversity. I would like to challenge at least a couple of you with one question that comes from Gert-Jan presentation. He showed us how the situation is very different for some crops. So for example, the banana, the mango, or the avocado, where there is one single cultivar overtaking the market, or even more like the case he was presenting of the blueberries, where you have many varieties, but it's only major breeding companies that work there. So I would like to ask to Edith and then to Amadeus, in those cases, how you see the possible linkage with large breeding programs, and what type of collaboration, if any, you see to approach at least from some angle the starting organic breeding on those crops. So basically your vision on partnerships across organic and conventional.
I think it very much depends on the crop and the company. In the Netherlands, we have a lot of breeding companies, so it was logic from the start, some decades ago, when we started in the Netherlands, that we wanted to do it together with the Dutch companies, because they are familiar with the growers. And some of the companies like Bejo and Enza and Rijkswaan, they were very much in favor of serving the organic market next to their conventional market. But they had to invest quite a lot of time and effort to get more acquainted with the organic farming system and with the requirements for the organic varieties. So that was a learning process. So that is not something that they can easily change from one day to another day. And in crops like Gert-Jan showed, like avocado or the blueberry, it might be a sector that is in breeding sector that is not yet used to think in organic breeding. And I dived a bit into the avocado, and although there is worldwide only one variety used, there is a diversity of varieties available. But you see that the requirements for the retail is not as optimal of those other varieties than that one that has now overwhelmed the market, because that is a variety with a long shelf life that can be shipped quite long, is robust, and has a color that the consumers are used. So if you switch to another variety, you really have to explain something, because you will never get that same variety that is now on the market. So I think that is quite a process, and I think it starts with connecting to some of those companies to see if they are willing to focus part of their breeding program on the organic sector. And if they don't, then we have to set up our own breeding and selection program.
Yes, that's a very realistic way to, evidently, we can have some positive cases, but it doesn't mean that for some positive collaborations that all the time can be that way. Amadeus, your perspective on that?
I can 100% agree with what Edith said already. It's true. And in fact, Sativa, I can only talk about vegetables, but in fact, Sativa, we have some collaborations with some conventional breeder companies for special aspects. But also there we can learn that it's quite a way to go to make them familiar with our perspectives, our way of how we want to get to new varieties. On the other side, I very often can see that there's also a question of intellectual property rights that have to be cleared. So I was also in discussion with big companies, and very often there's no interest I can see there's no really interest in collaboration. They want they have the same financial model behind their breeding approach, like in the conventional system, and so then it becomes difficult to really get to collaboration. And then therefore at the end my conclusion is the same. So if there is a potential, and we should be in discussion with the conventional breeders, but we should there should be also a strong organic breeding approach.
Yes, and maybe a good point is to try to spot those lines or those activities where such collaborations might be useful for both sides. Wytze, we have heard a little bit already your perspective in this in your presentation, but I think it would be nice if you would integrate a bit more your perspective from the animal sector, because, for example, I know from the project in Switzerland that obviously they couldn't make an independent station where the organic bulls would go for then being raised and the straws being collected. But in that case, they made an agreement with a Swiss organization, and they made an agreement to have the organic bulls in this station. So yes, please, it's better if we hear directly from you, as you have much more experience in that.
Yes, okay. I heard a lot of nice things today, and a lot of things are similar in plant breeding and animal breeding. First, what I hear, how to communicate breeding to the consumers. And Stefan IJzerman, he is from UDEA. He said it, that you have not be it has not be too difficult for the consumer. Just if you say you have robust varieties, robust animals, and in plant breeding you say we don't have to spray chemicals for these plants, but in animals nowadays you say we don't need to use antibiotics for the animals. Robust animals are not getting sick and don't need medicine. So that is sometimes the most simple thing to communicate it to the consumers. But it's also important, I think, that the retailers, also with animal breeding, are still a little bit afraid of the whole discussion of animal breeding. I talked with different retailers and companies at the BioFach in Germany a couple of years ago, and you see that they are kind of afraid to put the whole animal breeding thing in discussion with consumers because they are afraid of the losing clients. So it's also important, I think, how to explain breeding to the retailers, and because there it all starts. You can also see that with Edith's example for the potatoes. Then the last thing is we were talking about is. What was it? You want me?
Well, the collaborations from the organic initiatives with the conventional ones.
You see that it is very difficult. The animal breeding sector worldwide, it's a big international companies. They have the power. For example, if in Scandinavia, if you want to talk with farmers about their breeding goal, organic farmers, you want to talk with about the breeding goal in Scandinavia, you cannot do that without Viking genetics. The farmers are so kind of we say under the thumb, so we say in the Netherlands, but I don't know. But there is so much pressure from the breeding companies towards the farmers that the farmers don't even dare to speak to fill in a questionnaire. Because it's not from Viking genetics, and same thing in Germany. You see that there's a lot of pressure from the breeding companies. If I'm buying a breeding bull in Germany, then I buy it actually from the farmer. But after that, I have to buy it from the breeding company. I can only buy it, and they do the whole financial thing. So they have it all in their hands, and luckily in the Netherlands, it's more open, and we can talk about organic breeding and breeding goals without the breeding companies. I don't know but you see also the differences between countries, how the history was, how it was built up. But worldwide, the pressure from the breeding companies is huge, and not only towards farmers, but also towards governments. If you want to change something in breeding, the link with the breeding companies to the governments is worldwide, also enormous and strong. So now in the Netherlands we have this independent AI station, and they are selecting semen from the bulls or from our bulls, but they can only have 2 or 3 bulls each year, so that's not enough. We want to go to 10 to 20 bulls, and that's why we are now trying to set up an organic AI station. And that is what I also did with my chickens. You know, there is no organic chicken breeding until I have now my own little farm, which is certified organic. I have my chickens; they are certified organic. They are laying eggs. These eggs are certified organic. I have a brooding machine. So the SCAL, the organization who controls us in the Netherlands, has seen the brooding machine. So, okay, I have a brooding machine. And so I breed my own chickens. I have my one-day chicks are already organic, completely organic, because they come from organic eggs. And they are brooded in the brooding machine on the organic farm. And that's the way to develop organic breeding for animals, to have it all organic. Because there in the regulation, there is no regulation for organic breeding, animal breeding. So this is the way I did it with the chickens. And now we want to have also a barn where we can have 5-10 bulls in a stable with a place they can go out. It's all organic, and for the SCAL, for the certification, we are just a farm with 5 to 10 bulls. They are organic bulls, and so we jump them. They jump on a it's a fake cow, and we collect the semen, and then this semen, just like the eggs and just like the one-day chicks, the semen is organic. So it's organic semen. So like organic seeds in plant so we have organic. And then I want to make this little straws, you know. I want to have this little teeny weeny organic logo on it, because this is organic. Because now
I think you're making a very good point, or at least from my perspective.
This is the way. This is the way to change it.
Yes, thanks, Wytze. What I was meaning is that what you are basically all saying is that some type of collaborations make sense case by case, but obviously first we need to have independent organic initiatives. And in the animal sector, we have very now a few of them, very few, but we really first need to have a core, strong, well-placed organic initiatives, and only when you can be same level partner, then you can make collaborations that can be fair from both sides. I see Amadeus wants to contribute.
No, I want to add, the stronger the organic breeding will be, the better will be the collaboration with the conventional part.
Yes.
That's a very good summary. Exactly. I didn't use such good words to say this.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Is you know, this is what we also see, that now with the certification of organic, we have to bring our bulls to this conventional AI station. So the bull goes out of the organic chain. It gets not controlled, organic food maybe, but so the semen is not organic. And so for regulation and for because next year we want to have this annex for organic bulls. So these bulls have to be completely organic. They have to stay in the organic chain. If we bring the bulls to a conventional AI station, collect the semen, then people say, hey, okay, this bull is from an organic farm, okay, but it has been out of the chain, so officially it's not organic anymore. And we also have to think about that, you know, do we need really conventional organic AI stations, or can we make something, you know, that you can bring an organic bull for 3, 4, 5 months for semen selection to a conventional station, and then you call this semen organic? You know, this is also something you have to think about as the sector. What do we want? How do we want to produce the semen? Like in plant breeding, you know, you are what is it? The proliferation of the seeds, you know. So this is all organic.
The multiplication,
When is a seed organic? And that's also a discussion we have at the moment in the Netherlands. When do we call it organic?
And I think at least for these discussions, the provisions in the new regulation I have really activated, and also this deadline for phasing out of the derogations should, we shouldn't miss the occasion to use this regulatory deadline to actually improve our sector and make all those discussions that sometimes also because they are complex ones, they have not been prioritized in the past. We have a few minutes still, so I would like to give the word to Bavo as manager of the OPTA organization to have his impression from the discussion until now.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, all speakers and panel. I see something huge on our plate. I think we touch here, let's say, a core part, the starting part of the organic sector, with the seeds and the breeds and we are in a starting point, and we have nice successes in different areas, but we have quite a road to go, and we have only, let's say, 15-16 years to fulfill and to come up to this 100% organic. And as Edith explained, it took 10 years to have quite a diversity of organic potatoes, just only for this single crop. And Wytze is already busy for 20 years and now established, I think, really a stable starting point to progress. But especially what Gert-Jan was bringing in with the, let's say, with the fruits overseas, and perhaps not too much experience here in Europe with these kinds of crops, and especially the ones that are going very far in the direction of ready to eat, sweet, tasty, very easy to handle in a logistic, and very easy to consume for consumer, to eat for consumer. And especially in these areas, I see a big gap between what trade and consumer developed together, and what is needed in the organic breeding. And when I heard Gert-Jan expressing that we are depending in the bananas and the avocados, which are huge commodities, on single varieties or a few. And we know what is happening in climate, in soil fertility, biodiversity loss, etc. We can think that these single varieties can come easily in danger. And I think organic sector really has to make a program for these kind of commodities, and exchange between the seed developing companies and the trading sector and the retail sector, how to make sort of roadmaps, how to come to make a benefit out of the research programs that are available, like the Horizon 2020, and I think on many national levels, there is possibilities to support with research and with in this direction of organic seeds. And we have to, because in 2037, we have the end of the derogation. And of course, we know how it goes with derogations. When the time comes close, there will be a lobby to derogate again, because otherwise we lose organic, and we cannot But I know when you do not give a new derogation, then a lot of things will happen. But do we wait for that? I think we really have to take action. And there are so many good examples, and there is so much will in the sector to put their hands together. So I'm convinced that this webinar was a good starting point to further progress.
Thanks a lot. I think the same, and I think it's very good to have such occasions for different perspectives to meet. And I say it there, but I think we would be available to bring some of you at some point when it's possible, for example, in an organic breeding station, and to have continue that conversation, maybe really, you know, with a specific crop or a specific animal, and make more in-depth conversation. So let's use it as a first occasion of a debate on this topic. And I would close with the perspective of having further interactions, maybe directly meeting at organic breeders locations.
And thank you very much, Teresa, for leading us in this webinar.
To everyone, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.